Welcome back to teleSUR English, and join us as we broadcast live the 78th debate session of the United Nations General Assembly.
And to invite him to address the Assembly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, President of the General Assembly, Secretary of the United Nations, Excellencies, Heads of Delegations, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Mr. President, I'm proud to observe that this august body is under dedicated leadership of our Caribbean sister nation, Trinidad and Tobago, and that a distinguished citizen and experienced diplomat of that country is at the helm of the 78th session of the General Assembly. Mr. President, this is my fourth statement to this global body, and since then, I'm afraid to conclude that not much has changed for the better regarding the essential elements of peace, prosperity, and climate in our world. On the other hand, the challenges and crises have increased and deepened. I do not need to mention these crises because we know them all and repeat them every single time we speak to an international and regional audience. And the more important and relevant matter at hand is, what do we do about? We make promises not often kept. We express noble goals, but the delivery is poor. This cannot go on. Business as usual cannot be our mantra. No country is spared of the effects of this crisis, especially developing countries like my own country, Suriname. And no country can solve these challenges alone. It is worth mentioning that we humans are responsible for these crises, and we must take responsibility for them, and we must also express collective leadership to solve these problems effectively. A new approach of the conceptualizing our relationships is needed to adequately address this crisis. A new kind of multilateralism that is more just, effective, and forces us to unite. One that will demonstrate respect and commitment to international law and cooperation. It is therefore of utmost importance to transcend national interests and look to our common goals, and we must put aside ideological differences to constructively deliver for the prosperity of our people and the protection of our planet. We simply cannot expect durable solutions in a rapidly changing world if we do not reset the buttons. Mr. President, as world leaders, we have stressed that upholding firm commitments to international principles and international law, the principles of the United Nations Charter, and effective multilateralism are a conditio sine qua non to address these global challenges and threats. The role of the United Nations in defense and upholding of these principles through dialogue, constructive engagement, and concrete action remains crucial. Therefore, a strong, determined, and united United Nations is a must. Mr. President, the multiple global and national crises, such as debt burden, domestic effects of climate change, the financial economic downturn following the COVID-19 pandemic, the impact of the raging war in Ukraine have put tremendous pressure on the implementation of the SDGs on a major scale. Limited financial and technical resources had to be allocated for many emergencies just to make sure that no one was left behind. Mr. President, let us remember that building resilience and leaving no one behind is not a choice. I want to reiterate that for small developing countries with a low-lying coastal area, the fiscal pressure due to other crises beyond our doing is a real and a daily problem. However, I remain of the view that the earmarked transformation envisioned by the 2030 SDG agenda remains both possible and essential. Mr. President, as we know, food security is a major challenge. And just a few days ago in Cuba, I stressed the importance of science, technology, and innovation to increase food production and optimize the inputs needed to make agriculture more productive. And during my visit, Mr. President, I personally experienced the negative impact of the long-standing embargo, an embargo that does not achieve what it was meant for. The CARICOM Food Security Program is an example to reduce the region's food import bill by 25% by the year 2025 and promote local production with modern technology. Mr. President, the reach and impact of digital technologies will only continue to increase in the coming years, and it is crucial that the benefits of this innovation are leveraged to ensure an accessible, transparent, safe, and secure, digitally transformative environment. To implement this comprehensive strategy in a coherent manner, my country has recently designed and adopted a National Digital Strategy 2023-2030. Mr. President, the political, humanitarian, and security environment in Haiti is deteriorating. While I appreciate the efforts made so far to assist in finding an immediate solution, much more political efforts need to be made to translate the intentions into real actions. The people of Haiti are looking toward a regional and international community for assistance. At the same time, the Haitian stakeholders, which are divided in opposing groups, must demonstrate the will to dialogue and reach consensus for a way forward in the shortest time possible. Mr. President, another climate conference of the parties, COP28, is on our doorstep. As we are amidst in the reality of the increased intensity of the devastating global impact of climate change. It is regrettable to admit that despite some efforts, the world is still far from reaching the required level of emissions. And to prevent irreversible damage to our global environment and society. And we are bearing the brunt. While Suriname currently is experiencing extraordinary high temperatures resulting in challenges with regard to the availability of drinking water, inland areas are increasingly flooded by heavy rainfall, and coastal areas are threatened by the rising of the seawater level. As a consequence, the people living in remote parts of our vast interior are deprived of work, education, basic utilities, and food security is under threat. As one of the only 3 carbon-negative countries in the world, Suriname remains committed and continues to play its part in protecting the planet through national actions, but also through engaging in strategic international public and private partnerships that will contribute to remaining carbon negative for now and also for the future. We cannot go to Dubai in less than 2 months and hear the same analysis, the same stories, the same policies, the same speeches with noble goals, the same promises, and after that, nothing happens. Ladies and gentlemen, yes, it takes too long to make the required decisions that will have a meaningful impact and all will improve our living conditions. We need easier access to climate financing to implement mitigation and adaptation policies. We must walk the talk regarding loss and damage. We must join efforts that call for compensating highly forested countries for the so-called removal credits, as these countries so far have acted as carbon sinks for the whole world without any compensation. Mr. President, many of us have raised the urgent and comprehensive reform of the international financial architecture as the most critical issue to address the economic, financial, and environmental challenges faced by developing countries. An integral part of this reform process must include the discussion on new ways of classifying countries. And I ask all of us to contribute to the proposed multidimensional vulnerability index. Mr. President, my country, Suriname, is at the cusp of promising commercial development of newfound oil and gas resources. These developments and also the capital generation will allow us to provide for our population a social, health, and education system that will facilitate increased production in other sectors, creating a sustainable future for the current and the next generations. Suriname has, over the past 3 years, gone through a financial and economic reform process whereby my country people, citizens, had to sacrifice in many ways. Coupled with the COVID pandemic, the impact of climate change, the effects of war in Eastern Europe, and a high debt burden, the impact on the people in my country was even worse. I want to assure that the international community that my government is committed to remain a carbon negative country with an enormous biodiversity pool and a low deforestation level. During the Amazon Summit held last month in Belém do Pará in Brazil, we and 7 other countries have committed to a better management of the Amazon region. We committed to even stopping deforestation by the year 2030. We are committed to the application of high international environmental standards so that the impact of the environment can be minimized. Mr. Chair, we do this to finance our committed transition to an economy that is primarily based on renewable, non-carbon-based energy generation by 2060. I announce with a certain degree of pride that we recently registered our carbon credits for the first time on the UNFCCC registry. That was done with our own, albeit limited, capabilities. And we shall see how the market responds to these new resources. All these commitments are made to contribute to saving the planet and life on Earth. But I call on all heavy polluters to start with this process as well, and not to try to manage tax or punish environmental friendly production in developing countries which are at least responsible for the climate crisis. real change must particularly come from the more developed countries. In closing, Mr. President, together, let us harness our collective strengths, knowledge, determination to create a world where resilience and inclusivity are not just aspirations, but realities. Only through joint efforts, we can build a future where no one is left behind and where the Sustainable Development Goals become a shining beacon of hope and progress for all. We owe this to the current and future generations, and I appeal to all of us to work constructively and collectively towards a better and a new world order, and to recommit to the original goals of the Charter of the United Nations, but now, ladies and gentlemen, with more dedication, with more passion, and with more love for each other. I thank you, and may God bless you all. Thank you.
On behalf of the Assembly, I wish to thank the President of the Republic of Suriname for the statement just made, and I request protocol to escort His Excellency. The Assembly will hear of Bosnia and Herzegovina.
President of Suriname addressed the 78th session of the General Assembly of the United Nations. He started by saying that no country can stand alone before the general crisis facing the world, so that unity is key. The Surinamese head of state said all governments must come together in peace to turn over currently liabilities into profits and advantages through dialogue and constructive perspectives. He also recalled the need to improve agriculture and food production through technology and called for the lifting of the blockade against Cuba. He also explained his nation has implemented a digital economy strategy for 2023 to 2024. He also stressed the importance of the upcoming COP28 climate summit. We will have more details in upcoming news briefs. Stay with us.